This is going to be a rather confusing sight if you aren't watching this around the time it's uploaded, but happy Halloween. I went as Minion, as you can see, and this is also my first video on the channel. So, yeah. Also, if I sound dead, it's because I have the cold, and I have like 3 hours of sleep, but this video isn't about my sleeping habits. It's about one of the greatest literary figures in recent history, Franz Kafka. And for this video, we're going to get, more Franz Kafka-y with the suit. I tied the tie by myself, as you can probably tell. So, before we start digging into Franz Kafka and his literature, we should talk about his history. Kafka was a writer who chronicled the individual struggles against incomprehensible and overwhelming socio-bureaucratic powers. Born in Prague in 1883, Kafka immediately posed a sense of being an outsider. He was a German-speaking Jew in a Czech city, isolated linguistically, religiously, and culturally. This feeling of alienation, of not belonging, would become the primary signature of his fiction, but the deepest source of his lifelong anxiety was not the city, but the man who ruled the home. That man was his father, Hermann Kafka. Hermann was a loud, physically imposing, successful merchant who had clawed his way up from poverty. He had immense contempt for his sensitive, artistic son, viewing Franz's intellectual pursuits and writing as self-indulgent foolishness. To Hermann, Franz was constantly falling short, not manly enough, not decisive enough, not ambitious enough. The constant crushing judgment created an internal prison for Kafka. Every protagonist Kafka wrote, from Joseph K. in The Trial to Gregor Samsa in Metamorphosis, is in some way struggling against a terrifying, arbitrary, and judgment-filled figure of authority, a clear reflection of his father. This led to Kafka's deep, unrelenting sadness and low self-esteem. He was convinced he was unworthy of marriage, of children, and even of his own art. His work was his escape, yet it was also the source of his profound guilt. We know the full extent of this psychological damage because of the letter to his father, a devastating document of around 45 pages. In it, Franz details years of emotional abuse, explaining how his father's hypocrisy and sheer size overshadowed his entire existence. It's an act of profound self-justification and a desperate attempt to finally be understood. Franz wrote the letter, but out of fear of resignation, he never sent it. The silence speaks volumes about the total submission to his father's authority, even in his own mind. This man, burdened by anxiety and crushed by a constant sense of guilt, died young at the age of 40 from tuberculosis. Yet, this painful personal history gave rise to a universal truth. His personal nightmare became the lens through which we now view the frustrations of the modern world. Let's look at how he translated the sense of oppression, arbitrary judgment into three literary masterpieces, starting with the iconic symbol of sudden total alienation, the Metamorphosis, which is one of my favorite. This is the core of what we call Kafkaesque. The opening of the Metamorphosis is one of the most famous in literature. When Gregor Samsa awoke one morning from troubled dreams, he found himself transformed in his bed into a monstrous vermin. This isn't a simple feature. It's a terrifying metaphor. Gregor, a traveling salesman who supported his family, finds his transformation is a physical manifestation of his alienation and his anxiety about his value if he can't work. His family's response is the real tragedy. They treat him as an inconvenience, then an enemy, demonstrating a transactional love based purely on his economic utility. It's a profound commentary on modern identity and the crushing feeling of being worthless when you can no longer contribute. Now, let's look at the two most defining novels of arbitrary authority, The Trial and The Castle. In The Trial, the bank clerk, Joseph K., is arrested for a crime he's never told, spending the entire book trying to find out why. In The Castle, the land surveyor, K., tries endlessly to gain entry to the mysterious governing authority that summoned him. In both stories, the protagonist is trapped in the labyrinth of bureaucracy, a system that is powerful, arbitrary, confusing, and ultimately impossible to reason with. The rules are obscure, the officials are unreachable, and the entire process is a meaningless cycle. This isn't just about the government, it's about our relationship with any overwhelming system, a legal system, a corporation, or a complex social order. Kafka captures the modern nightmare of the individual feeling, powerless against an indifferent and all-consuming machine. This brings us back to his ultimate legacy. The adjective Kafkaesque, it describes a situation where an individual is tormented or defeated by an opaque, senseless, and oppressive authority. It's not just weird or bizarre. It requires a specific element of an illogical, bureaucratic power that leaves the victim feeling eternally guilty and helpless. He is a literary pioneer of existentialism, exploring the fundamental human condition, the search for meaning in a chaotic, absurd, and indifferent universe. He didn't just write about the absurdity of life, he made us feel it. Franz Kafka may have felt like a failure in his own lifetime, but his work stands as one of the most powerful and enduring mirrors of the modern soul. Franz Kafka died at the early age of 40, believing that he was worthless and his work was nothing special. He told his one best friend to burn all of his literature. Luckily, he didn't do that, and that's why we have his amazing work and the adjective Kafkaesque today. The recent generation, Gen Z, especially resonates with his work. Gen Z resonates deeply with Franz Kafka because his stories mirror the emotional landscape of our age. Since I'm Gen Z, you may be older, you may be younger, but this resonates with all of us, just Gen Z in specific. A world that often feels absurd, impersonal, and ruled by systems we can't quite understand. Whether it's navigating endless online bureaucracy, feeling trapped in the algorithmic loops of social media, or facing pressures to constantly perform and produce, Kafka's sense of invisible judgment feels eerily familiar to everyday life. His protagonists, lost in meaningless procedures or punished for reasons never explained, embody the same confusion and anxiety many young people feel when trying to find purpose in a chaotic, overconnected world. Kafka captures the loneliness of being surrounded by noise yet unheard, and that's something Gen Z, living in an age of constant surveillance, performance, and an existential burnout, understands all too well. And if you don't feel that way, I would recommend looking at housing prices. But that is the philosophy and writing of Franz Kafka. This video is not perfect in any way. This is my first video, and I would recommend reading all of Kafka's work. If not all, I would recommend The Metamorphosis, as that's my favorite. But all others mentioned in this video is a must-read too, as it will infinitely explain his ideals better than this video could. I hope this helps give you an introduction to Franz Kafka and his philosophy in writing, as he was an amazing man who's limited by his father. And thank you for watching this video, and hopefully it helps you with the introduction to Franz Kafka. And please go read his literature and The Letter to His Father. And happy Halloween.